the mysterious Black Pyramid. In the vast, remote wilderness of Alaska, a story has persisted for decades about a massive underground pyramid, one that allegedly rivals or even surpasses the Great Pyramid of Giza in size. Known in whispers and rumors as the Black Pyramid of Alaska, this mysterious structure is said to lie buried beneath the earth, with only a few brave individuals coming forward to share what they claim to know. Among them is Tom DeLonge, a musician and researcher who has dedicated much of his recent work to investigating unexplained aerial phenomena and hidden knowledge. In one of his interviews, DeLonge spoke about a large pyramid located underground in Alaska, a structure allegedly studied in secret by government agencies and defense contractors. The origin of the story traces back to around 1992, when scientists conducting seismic surveys in Alaska reportedly detected an unusual anomaly beneath the surface. This discovery came after a detonation was set off in the region, originally intended to help researchers map the Earth's crust. However, what the seismic equipment recorded was far from ordinary. According to those involved, the shockwaves revealed a solid geometric formation beneath the ground, one that resembled a pyramid. Its size, some said, was twice that of the pyramid at Giza. The discovery stunned the team and triggered further investigation. Among those who stepped forward to share more details was Douglas A. Muchler, a retired U.S. Army officer. Muchler claimed that after the anomaly was detected, the information was briefly covered by a local news outlet, Channel 13 in Anchorage. He said that the broadcast aired once and then mysteriously vanished from public access. When he attempted to contact the station for more information or a copy of the broadcast, he was told that no such footage existed and advised not to pursue the matter further. Despite this, Muchler claimed that others remembered seeing the broadcast and even recounted specific details, suggesting that something unusual had indeed aired before being quietly removed. DeLonge elaborated on this story during an interview, saying that the pyramid was not only real, but had been actively studied for decades. According to him, a high-level defense contractor confided to one of his sources that the pyramid was not simply a structure, but possibly a device. Though not active, this device was allegedly believed to affect human consciousness, perhaps even suppress it. The claim added another layer of mystery, raising questions about the purpose of such a construct and the implications it might have if its function were fully understood. Over the years, the story has taken on an almost mythological quality. While no public excavation or official acknowledgement has occurred, the idea of a buried pyramid in Alaska continues to intrigue. Residents near the supposed location, which some believe is not far from Valdez, have shared stories of unusual activity in the area. There are reports of strange lights in the sky, unusual animal behavior, and even unexplained disappearances, adding fuel to the mystery. While none of these phenomena can be directly tied to the alleged pyramid, they contribute to an atmosphere of secrecy and wonder. Many researchers and enthusiasts believe that the disappearance of the original news coverage and the silence from official channels are signs of deliberate suppression. According to them, stories like this are sometimes quietly buried when they touch on sensitive subjects that certain authorities prefer to keep out of public discussion. The lack of follow-up, combined with first-hand accounts and corroborative memories from locals, suggests that something out of the ordinary may have taken place in 1992. Despite the compelling nature of the claims, there has been no physical evidence released to the public to confirm the existence of the Alaskan pyramid. No photos, no coordinates, and no official geological surveys have been shared that point directly to such a structure. Still, for many, the consistent details and the credibility of those who have come forward give the story weight. The account of Muchler, along with DeLonge's research and claims, keeps the conversation alive. The idea of a hidden pyramid beneath the Alaskan wilderness touches on deeper human curiosities. It challenges our understanding of ancient history, human potential, and what may lie beneath the surface, literally and metaphorically. Whether the story is an undiscovered truth, an elaborate legend, or a mix of both, it serves as a powerful reminder that the world still holds mysteries waiting to be explored. For now, the Black Pyramid of Alaska remains unverified and hidden, if it exists at all, but it continues to inspire questions, research, and speculation. In a world increasingly mapped and measured, stories like this offer a sense of wonder and the possibility that some secrets are still deeply buried, waiting for the right moment or the right people to uncover them. The mystery of the Urauli. In the remote forests of southwestern Alaska, particularly near the region of Lake Iliamna, tales have long circulated about a mysterious creature known as the Urauli. Described as towering ape-like beings standing nearly 10 feet tall, the Urauli are said to roam silently among the trees, shrouded in long, shaggy fur and glowing eyes that pierce through the dense woodland fog. These creatures have fascinated and puzzled both locals and cryptid researchers for generations, blending folklore with a sense of eerie possibility that continues to capture imaginations. According to legend, the Urauli are not aggressive or malevolent beings. Unlike other mysterious entities in Alaskan folklore, such as the Kushtaka from southeastern Alaska, who are often portrayed as mischievous or even dangerous shapeshifters, the Urauli are generally considered to be peaceful and gentle. Their high-pitched cries, which resemble the haunting call of a loon, echo through the trees and across the lakes, enhancing their ghost-like presence. The most distinctive feature of these creatures is their incredibly long arms, which are said to hang all the way down to their ankles, adding to their surreal and otherworldly appearance. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Urauli myth is the idea that these beings were once human children. As the story goes, individuals who wander too far into the woods at night may become lost, and over time undergo a transformation into these forest giants. Whether taken literally or symbolically, this tale likely served as a cautionary tool meant to protect young ones from the dangers of the wilderness. In a land where dense forests and vast uninhabited stretches of land are the norm, such stories could easily take root and evolve over generations. Similarities between the Urauli and other cryptids have not gone unnoticed. One particularly notable comparison is with the creature known as the hairy man, which has reportedly been seen near Valdez, Alaska. Like the Urauli, the hairy man is described as a tall, fur-covered humanoid being with features reminiscent of the widely known Bigfoot. However, there are key differences between the two. Reports suggest that the hairy man displays more aggressive behavior, whereas the Urauli are portrayed as more elusive and harmless. Additionally, sightings of the hairy man often imply that there may be more than one, whereas stories of the Urauli tend to center on individual encounters. Despite a lack of physical evidence, belief in the Urauli persists in Alaskan communities. Some attribute sightings to natural phenomena, mistaken identities, or even the blending of cultural memory and imagination. Still, the consistent details, luminescent eyes, lanky limbs, the cry of a loon, form a striking image that is hard to dismiss entirely. Whether a misunderstood creature of the wilderness, a figure born from traditional storytelling, or something yet unexplained, the Urauli remains an enduring symbol of Alaska's mystique and the deep connection between its people and the land. For many, the Urauli represents more than a legend. It is a reflection of the awe and respect that the natural world inspires, its beauty, its danger, and its enduring mysteries. Whether viewed as folklore or potential reality, the Urauli continues to stir curiosity and wonder, reminding all who hear its story of the vast, unknown secrets that still lie hidden within the Alaskan wilderness. The strange case of Amy and Scott Fandell. The disappearance of Amy and Scott Fandell from Sterling, Alaska, remains one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in the state's history. On the night of September 5, 1978, the two siblings vanished from their rural cabin home, leaving behind more questions than answers. At the time, Scott was 13 years old and Amy was just 8. They lived with their mother, Margaret, in a modest cabin tucked away in the woods near Scout Lake Road and the Sterling Highway. The location, secluded and surrounded by dense forest, made the disappearance even more unsettling. The family's life had been marked by recent emotional strain. Margaret and her husband, Roger Fandell, had gone through a difficult divorce. Roger had left Alaska and moved to Arizona, while Margaret continued to raise the siblings alone. She worked long hours as a waitress, and the siblings were often unsupervised during her shifts. Despite the challenges, Margaret, Scott, and Amy were doing their best to maintain a sense of normalcy and stability. On the evening of their disappearance, Margaret and her sister Kathy Schonfelder took the siblings to a local bar and restaurant known as Good Time Charlie's. It was a casual night out, and sometime between 10 and 10:30 in the evening, Margaret and Kathy walked the siblings back to the cabin. The plan was for the two women to return to the bar for a while longer, while Scott and Amy stayed home. The cabin's front door lock did not work properly, and due to the location in a wooded area, the home was not visible from the road. Margaret reminded them not to stay up too late before she and Kathy left again. Shortly after being dropped off, Scott and Amy went next door to play at the Lupton family's house. They were close friends and often spent time together, walking to school and playing after hours. Eventually, Mrs. Lupton asked Scott and Amy to go home because they were making too much noise. While the exact time the siblings left is unknown, a neighbour driving by noticed that the lights were still on in the Fandell cabin at around 11:45 in the evening. Margaret and Kathy returned to the cabin between 2 and 3 in the morning. They immediately noticed that the house was dark, which struck Margaret as unusual. Both siblings were afraid of the dark and always left the lights on. Inside, they found a box of macaroni and cheese, an open can of tomatoes, and a pot of boiling water left on the stove. This wasn't alarming at first, as it was a simple meal they enjoyed. Believing the siblings may have gone to bed and simply forgotten about the food, Margaret did not check on them or confirm if they had gone back to the Lupton home. She simply went to bed. The following morning, Margaret left for work around 8:30 in the morning. Kathy woke around noon, assuming they had already left for school. It wasn't until later, when the school bus came and went without Scott and Amy stepping off, that Kathy grew concerned. When the Lupton children came over and asked to play with Scott and Amy, Kathy realized that neither child had been to school that day. She called Margaret, who immediately contacted the police. The authorities launched a search of the surrounding area, but found no trace of the siblings. According to some reports, spent bullet casings were found outside the cabin, but this clue did not lead to any concrete developments. Many have speculated that the siblings were taken, possibly by someone who had overheard that they would be home alone that night. Margaret suspected her ex-husband Roger might have taken them, but contact with his family in Arizona revealed no indication that they were with him. Despite being considered a suspect over the years, there has never been any confirmed evidence linking him to the case. In the aftermath of the disappearance, Margaret eventually moved to Illinois. The original family cabin burned down years later, erasing the last physical trace of the night Scott and Amy vanished. Despite leads investigated in California and even Canada, no verified sightings or discoveries have brought authorities closer to understanding what happened. At the time of their disappearance, Scott Curtis Fandell was 4 feet 11 inches tall and weighed 74 pounds. He had brown hair and blue eyes and was last seen wearing a striped t-shirt and jeans. Amy Lee Fandell was 4 feet tall, weighed 52 pounds, and had strawberry blonde hair and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a sweater, a red and blue vest, and striped jeans. Today, if they are still out there somewhere, Scott would be 58 years old and Amy would be 52. The Fandell case has continued to haunt the community of Sterling and those who have followed it over the years. The absence of answers, coupled with the eeriness of the setting and the ordinary nature of the night they disappeared, makes their story especially poignant. It serves as a stark reminder of how quickly and quietly lives can change, and how some mysteries remain unresolved despite the passage of decades. To this day, those who remember Scott and Amy continue to hope that the truth will one day come to light. The mysterious disappearance of Sharon Buis. The disappearance of Sharon Buis remains one of Alaska's most perplexing unsolved mysteries. On May 23, 2014, the experienced hiker and well-respected physical therapist vanished without a trace from the Mount Roberts Trail in Juneau. Despite a coordinated multi-day search effort involving state agencies, rescue teams, and even aerial technology, no definitive clues have ever emerged to explain what happened that day. Sharon Buis was 48 years old at the time she disappeared. She had built a life in Juneau, where she worked at Juneau Physical Therapy and ran a side business selling orthopedic office chairs. A woman of energy, discipline, and adventure, Buis was known for her active lifestyle. She had ice camped in Greenland, biked from Alaska to Canada, and participated in a wide range of physical activities, including kayaking, running, and hockey. Her disappearance shocked those who knew her, especially given her strong background in the outdoors. On the morning of May 23rd, Buis was last seen around 9:30 in the morning at Alaska Marine Lines in downtown Juneau, where she had gone to ship 2 orthopedic chairs. It was a seemingly ordinary task, but it would be the last confirmed sighting of her. She had made no mention of hiking plans to family or friends that day, and she left behind key gear, including her overnight pack and emergency GPS device. This was unusual for someone as safety-conscious and prepared as Buis, and it raised immediate concerns once her absence became apparent. She was scheduled to meet her longtime hiking companion, Ann Johnson, the following morning at 8:45 in the morning for a hike to Hawthorne Peaks. When Buis failed to show, Johnson became concerned. Trusting her instincts, she drove around to various trailheads looking for Buis's vehicle. At 9:30 that evening, she located Buis's car at the Mount Roberts trailhead. This discovery prompted a missing person report and triggered the beginning of an intensive search effort. The official search began in the early morning hours of May 25th and continued for 4 days. Search and rescue teams, including the U.S. Coast Guard, Alaska State Troopers, Alpine Club members, and specialized search dogs, scoured the Mount Juneau trail system. The Coast Guard brought in helicopters equipped with forward-looking infrared thermal imaging and night vision to aid in the search, while aerial teams covered difficult terrain like ravines and remote ridgelines. At one point, a search dog picked up a scent near the parking lot, but it led nowhere. Despite the extensive coverage, no signs of Sharon were found. There were no belongings left behind, no clothing items discovered, no footprints or broken branches to suggest a path. The trail network was combed and rechecked. Every possible route she could have taken, whether intentionally or accidentally, was reviewed. When the troopers eventually called off the official search, it left her loved ones devastated and confused. The decision was based on the belief that they had thoroughly searched every feasible area. In the months following her disappearance, scattered leads would surface, offering brief flashes of hope. One hiker mentioned encountering the scent of decay and possible signs of a bear in the area, but follow-ups led nowhere. Others searched near abandoned mineshafts and lesser-used paths, hoping to uncover a clue the initial team had missed. But all these efforts returned empty-handed. Speculation about what may have happened to Buis ranges from the plausible to the deeply unsettling. One theory suggests that she may have been injured or disoriented and wandered into terrain too treacherous for rescue teams to access. Others wonder whether she may have encountered an aggressive animal, though there was no evidence to support such an encounter. Some consider the possibility of foul play, but again, no evidence was ever recovered to support that theory either. With her phone untraceable and her GPS device left at home, there was little data to guide investigators. What troubles many about Sharon's case is the complete lack of physical evidence. Her vehicle was parked at the trailhead, suggesting she began her hike, but from that point onward, her path became invisible. It is as if she simply vanished into the wilderness, leaving behind a series of unanswered questions and a community that continues to mourn her absence. Now, years later, the case remains open. Sharon's disappearance is a painful reminder of the vast, untamed landscapes of Alaska, beautiful but unforgiving. Despite the passing of time, her family, friends, and those involved in the search continue to hold out hope that one day answers will come to light. Until then, Sharon Buis remains missing, her story etched into the collective memory of a region that still wonders what truly happened on that quiet trail in May of 2014. The strange disappearance of Erin Marie Gilbert. The mysterious disappearance of Erin Marie Gilbert continues to haunt the community of Girdwood, Alaska, and her loved ones. A vibrant, intelligent, and athletic woman with a bright future, Erin vanished under puzzling circumstances on July 1, 1995. During what was supposed to be a simple first date at the Girdwood Forest Fair. Despite the efforts of her family and community and the enduring questions surrounding that day, she has never been found. Erin Marie Gilbert was born on May 4, 1971, in Everett, Washington. She was the youngest of 3 sisters and was known for her warm personality, quick wit, and striking presence. Standing at 5 feet 11 inches, she was both athletic and confident. In high school, Erin excelled in sports such as basketball, track, volleyball, and softball, while also maintaining a perfect GPA. Her creativity found expression through photography, modeling, and poetry. At the time of her disappearance, she lived with her eldest sister Stephanie and worked as a nanny in Anchorage. A few days before the fair, Erin met a man named David Combs while playing pool, a hobby she enjoyed. They spoke briefly and exchanged phone numbers. Combs later called and invited her to attend the Girdwood Forest Fair with him. Erin, never one to turn down a new experience, agreed to go. Combs picked her up from her sister's home around 4 in the afternoon on the day of the fair. Given the 40-minute drive, they likely arrived in Girdwood around 4:40 in the afternoon. According to Combs, the two stayed at the fair for just over an hour before deciding to leave around 6 in the evening. When they reached his car, he claimed that the battery had died because he left the headlights on. Rather than returning to the crowded fairgrounds to ask for help, Combs said he walked off alone in search of a friend's house to find jumper cables. He told police he left Erin at the vehicle and returned 2 hours later, only to find her gone. Strangely, when he attempted to start the car again, it worked without any issue. Believing Erin might have returned to the fair, he said he spent the next 5 hours searching for her there. The following morning at 7, Combs contacted Stephanie Gilbert to ask if Erin had made it home. She had not. Alarmed, Stephanie and her family immediately drove to the fairgrounds. When they arrived, Combs was already there and had been seen eating a hot dog, which suggested he had either been at or near the grounds for some time. The family searched frantically, made announcements over the loudspeaker, and asked around. One fairgoer claimed to have seen Erin speaking with someone about tattoos, but beyond that, no concrete leads emerged. Stephanie contacted the authorities, but was initially met with hesitation. Because Erin was an adult and had only been missing a short time, police were reluctant to launch a full investigation. It wasn't until Stephanie reached out to the media and applied public pressure that law enforcement began taking the case more seriously. Despite the search efforts, no trace of Erin was ever found. Those closest to her were adamant that she would not have remained alone in the car. Erin was independent, practical, and not the kind of person who would have stayed behind passively while someone else looked for help. This has led to much speculation about the story that Combs gave. Why did they leave the fair so early after driving 40 minutes to get there? Why didn't they simply return to the fair and ask someone for assistance instead of wandering around looking for a house in the woods? And why did the car suddenly work when Combs returned, and who was the friend he was supposedly searching for? Another layer of uncertainty surrounds the timing. If Combs had called Stephanie from his home phone, how did he arrive at the fairgrounds before she did? This suggests that he may not have returned home at all, but was already in the area when he called. These inconsistencies have caused continued unease among Erin's family and friends. While no evidence of wrongdoing has ever been confirmed, the circumstances have fueled suspicions and lingering doubts. Erin's sister has also noted that Erin didn't appear particularly enthusiastic about Combs. She was open to giving him a chance, but didn't seem especially interested in him romantically. This raises difficult questions about what might have occurred during the date. Could something have gone wrong? And did Erin perhaps reject an advance, leading to a situation that spiraled out of control? Despite repeated efforts, including searches of the surrounding areas, including dense forest and rough terrain, no physical evidence has been recovered. Not a shoe, not a piece of clothing, not a single clue indicating where Erin may have gone or what happened to her. Years have passed since that summer day, but Erin Gilbert's case remains open. For her family, the pain of not knowing is as sharp now as it was then. Each year, they hope for closure, for someone to step forward, or for some new lead to breathe life into the investigation. Erin was not the type of person who would vanish without a trace. Her presence, her drive, her heart were too strong. Her disappearance serves as a heartbreaking reminder of how quickly a life can change and how vital it is to keep asking questions. For now, the case remains a mystery, with the hope that one day the truth will be known and that Erin Marie Gilbert will finally be found. The disappearance of Kevin O'Keefe. Over 250,000 individuals are reported missing every year, with estimates of actual missing persons cases that are left unreported, pushing that total to more than an expected 300,000 cases annually. With that many reports, It is no wonder that a vast majority of these cases are left unsolved. However, every now and then there are a series of missing cases that emerge that are so peculiar they become the subject of impossible to explain theories. Known as the Missing 411, there appears to be a substantial number of missing persons cases relating to the disappearances of individuals from national parks. In fact, many of these Missing 411 cases are believed to not be investigated too deeply, as some form of supernatural or paranormal cover-up takes place in these undisturbed locations. On the 8th of October, back in 1985, National Park Ranger David Nemeth was exploring the area of Wolf Point within Alaska's Glacier National Park when he came across a difficult-to-explain sight. For added context, Glacier National Park is considered to be one of the most remote camping and wilderness exploration areas of the United States. The location forms from a series of small inlets that expand into wider inlets on the Alaskan shores connecting with the Pacific Ocean, and so allow a greater movement of travel throughout the region by boat. As the National Park Ranger, David Nemeth, and his partner, who remains unnamed, were patrolling the shores of Wolf Point, they claimed to have noticed what they described as a small tent residing right next to the high tide line of the shore. Believing that someone had decided to set up their small camp right at the edge of the water, the two National Park Rangers quickly parked their boats on the shore and went to investigate further, hoping to warn the lone camper about the dangers of the sudden rising tide and the fear of losing any of their survival equipment. Almost immediately, the two men began to realize that something far more peculiar had occurred, as they noticed that many of the more important pieces of equipment appeared to have been scattered throughout the area, as if the person was still setting up camp and had momentarily dropped their equipment. Outside of the tent, the National Park Rangers discovered an untouched sleeping bag and foam pad, alongside several tools used to put up a tent. Within the tent appeared to have been 1 month's worth of food, a couple of flashlights, several survival books on the Glacier National Park, pamphlets concerning safety and survival strategies, soap, several packs of cigarettes, a bottle of vitamin C supplements, a new compass, and many other items typically used for camping. However, all of the items appeared to have been either untouched or still in their store-bought packaging. After waiting a while and calling out for the camper, the two National Park Rangers realized they would be unable to conduct a search immediately, and so decided to return to their boat and outpost to regroup and plan a better strategy. A Freedom of Information Act request that would later reveal the park rangers' written investigation on the matter claimed that the site was so bizarre it caused them to worry about the condition of the camper, but were unable to find any evidence of a struggle or animal attack, and so were forced to postpone the search for another 24 hours. The following day, at first light, the two National Park Rangers returned to the site, accompanied by an additional 2 other National Park Rangers, and discovered the campsite in the exact same condition as the previous day. Now, believing that the camper responsible for the campsite was missing, or in trouble, the National Park Rangers began their search and rescue for the responsible party and began to investigate who could be missing. It was at around this time that the Rangers realized that the campsite appeared to have belonged to a 36-year-old male by the name of Kevin Robert OKeefe, who had arrived in the area on the 22nd of September, less than 20 days prior to their first contact with the campsite, and had originally planned to have been in the area for a full month before returning home. Retracing Kevin Robert O'Keefe's steps, the Rangers discovered that O'Keefe had traveled from his home back in Sacramento, California, and arrived at the city of Juneau, Alaska on the 20th of September. On the day of his arrival, he would immediately take a small flight to the Glacier Park headquarters to be trained by the Rangers on proper survival technique and what to do for specific situations one will most likely find themselves in out the national park. Interestingly enough, it was at the Glacier Park headquarters that the majority of the information of Kevin O'Keefe was gathered, several weeks prior to his disappearance. During his training, it had been known that Kevin O'Keefe was an avid outdoorsman with several thousand hours of experience when it came to camping, hiking, and survival studies. His supplies were able to last him an entire month, with several equipment redundancies in the event that any of his tools had failed. On the 20th and 21st of September, despite having more than enough experience for his 1-month stay out in Glacier National Park, Kevin O'Keefe would enroll in and attend several classes hosted by the Glacier National Park headquarters on surviving in the wilds of the park, with adequate testing and information provided to him to prove his confidence in understanding basic and advanced survival techniques for the area. On the 22nd of September, Kevin OKeefe would last be seen after he would take a small float plane into the Muir Inlet, slightly north of Wolf Point. According to the pilot and several rangers, it was believed that Kevin OKeefe was traveling alone. Despite the several dozen man-hours spent investigating Kevin OKeefe's history, experience and his time spent out in Glacier National Park, the rangers became increasingly confused as to how and why OKeefe would suddenly disappear. It was at around this time that new information surrounding the campsite appeared and began to complicate their search even further. According to the National Park Service reports, on the 10th of October, a team of rangers returned to the area with the assistance of an overhead Cessna 206 aeroplane attacked with floats to perform a more thorough search for Kevin from aerial view. During their search, the team of rangers discovered a pair of boots and Kevin's hat, located roughly half a mile away from his campsite. The pair of shoes and hat would be found inside a small ravine and appeared to have been purposefully placed there, as no other sign of Kevin was found, and the shoes appeared to have been purposefully untied and thrown down into the gully. Within a half-mile radius of the camp, the rangers found stashes of Kevin's goods and water, believing that he had planned on hiking throughout the surrounding area and wished to separate his food from his campsite to deter animals from sniffing around his tent and equipment. 7 days after the aerial search, on the 17th of October, back in 1985, the investigation into the disappearance of Kevin OKeefe was slowly ended. Hoping to gather more information, the Anchorage Daily newspaper would publish an article on the 17th of October with the cooperation of the Glacier Park Rangers that provided details and speculation on O'Keefe's disappearance. The Rangers would provide the statement that they saw no bear tracks or animal tracks of any kind anywhere in the area surrounding Kevin's camp in almost a 2-mile radius. Even more peculiar, the Rangers remarked that the situation seemed increasingly odd as they discovered or saw almost no wildlife of any kind in the region. To this day, the search for Kevin OKeefe is still considered an open case. No evidence of a struggle, animal attack, or accident was discovered. The mysterious haunting of West High School. The haunting of West High School in Anchorage, Alaska, is a tale that has endured for decades, wrapped in eerie consistency and cloaked in mystery. Unlike many paranormal stories that suffer from vague details and contradictions, the sightings at this particular school have proven unsettlingly uniform. Students, staff, and visitors alike have come forward with accounts so similar that even skeptics find it difficult to completely dismiss them. What makes the phenomenon at West High so compelling is not just the number of stories, but their shared themes and the profound effect they have had on those who experience them. Located near the peaceful, yet hauntingly quiet Westchester Lagoon, West High School stands in stark contrast to its picturesque surroundings. While the lagoon transforms into a beloved winter skating rink each year, just beyond its frozen charm lies a school with a very different kind of reputation. Over the years, the school has gained a name not only for its academics and arts, but also for something far less ordinary: unexplained apparitions, strange sounds, and a chilling presence that refuses to leave. At the heart of these encounters is a ghostly figure known only as the Lady in White. Dressed in layers of delicate, pale clothing, she has become a fixture in stories passed from class to class. Most of her appearances take place near the theatre and auditorium, where she seems to linger as though waiting for a performance. Some say she walks the aisles and stares at the stage in silence, while others claim to have seen her slipping backstage or into dark, forgotten storage rooms. Witnesses often report seeing her for only a moment before she disappears without a trace, leaving behind an uneasy feeling that is hard to shake. Her elusiveness only adds to her mystique. One assistant principal once claimed to have encountered her late one evening. The figure, silent and glowing faintly in the dim corridor light, began to approach. Overcome with fear, the administrator turned and fled, vowing never to walk that hallway again after dark. Though she has never been known to speak or cause harm, her presence alone is enough to unsettle even the bravest of those who cross her path. But the Lady in White is not the only spirit said to reside at West High. Another ghost, believed to be that of a former janitor, has also made his presence known. Unlike the fleeting grace of the lady, The janitor is more corporeal, even menacing at times. His pale skin and stern expression have startled more than one unsuspecting student. One girl, opening a basement door, found herself eye to eye with the ghostly man and was so frightened she threatened to drop her class rather than return to that part of the building. Despite his spectral form, the janitor appears to continue his earthly duties. Students and staff have reported hearing the sound of sweeping and footsteps in empty hallways. Some have even caught glimpses of his figure silently cleaning late at night. While his presence may not be overtly threatening, it is certainly unsettling, as if he has been bound to his role in life even beyond the grave. The consistency in the descriptions of these apparitions has led many to believe that something truly unusual resides within the walls of West High. These aren't random ghost stories passed along for entertainment. They come from different people, at different times, who often describe nearly identical encounters without prior knowledge of others' experiences. This pattern gives the tales a weight that pure imagination cannot explain away. For those who have never had a paranormal experience, it is easy to be skeptical. The supernatural often lives in a realm that defies logical understanding. But for those who have felt a chill on a warm day, who have seen shadows move where none should or heard voices in an empty room, belief is no longer a matter of faith, but of experience. The haunting of West High represents one of those rare cases where the veil between the known and unknown seems especially thin. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the stories from West High School have become part of the institution's legacy. They are whispered in hallways, passed down in student circles, and retold by alumni who never forgot their brush with the unexplained. In a place meant for learning and creativity, these strange figures have carved out their own space, unseen by many, but unforgettable to those who cross their path. Anchorage's West High may be just another school to outsiders, but to those who walk its halls after the final bell, it is something more. It is a place where the past refuses to be forgotten, where shadows sometimes have stories to tell, and where a lady in white and a dedicated janitor may still wander, eternally part of the school's curious and chilling legacy. Leonard Lane disappearance in the Alaska Triangle. With every new discovery often comes a tide of new questions, mysteries, and the unexplained. One of the most puzzling regions in the United States is the Alaska Triangle, an area stretching between Anchorage, Juneau, and Utqiagvik, the northernmost city in Alaska. Known for its harsh climate, remote landscapes, and long, dark winters, the Alaska Triangle is not the kind of place where someone would want to be lost. Yet, strangely, since 1988, more than 16,000 people have vanished in this region under mysterious circumstances. Among those lost to the Triangle is Leonard Lane, a 73-year-old veteran who disappeared without a trace during a 1995 Independence Day celebration in Fairbanks. Leonard Lane's disappearance stands out not just for its suddenness, but also for how little information was ever recovered about what happened to him. Lane, who had served during the 1940s, was attending a 4th of July parade and reportedly went for a walk afterward, possibly venturing into the edges of the Alaska Triangle. From that point onward, he was never seen again. Despite being known for a pronounced limp due to old injuries, which would have made him easily identifiable, no one reported seeing him after the event. There were no witnesses, no clues, and no sightings. His case, like many others in the region, remains an unsolved mystery. Lane was officially declared legally deceased 2 years later in 1997, but this legal closure brought no real answers. The absence of physical evidence or any sign of struggle left many wondering how someone could simply vanish in broad daylight during a public event with no trace. Some have speculated about environmental dangers, such as wildlife or treacherous terrain, while others lean toward more unconventional theories tied to the region's reputation for strange disappearances. The Alaska Triangle has long been the subject of curiosity and speculation. The area has claimed the lives and whereabouts of not only locals, but high-profile individuals as well. In 1972, for example, Congressman Nick Begich and House Majority Leader Hale Boggs disappeared while flying from Anchorage to Juneau. Their plane was never recovered. Then, in 2001, Thomas Anthony Nuzzi, a traveling nurse staying in Anchorage, failed to appear for work and was never found again. These cases, like Leonard Lane's, only add to the mystique of the area. Although it may not attract the same level of global attention as the Bermuda Triangle, the Alaska Triangle holds its own as a region filled with mystery. The terrain itself seems to swallow up not only people but any trace of their existence. The environment is unpredictable, the weather unforgiving, and the isolation extreme. Whether the causes behind these disappearances are environmental, human, or something more mysterious, the result is the same: a growing number of people missing, with no answers and no closure for their families. The story of Leonard Lane is a reminder that even in a world of advanced technology and instant communication, people can and do vanish without explanation. His case, quiet and largely forgotten by the public, still echoes in the broader story of the Alaska Triangle, a place where questions often outnumber answers. The world is vast, and some parts of it, like the frozen, shadowy reaches of Alaska, remain unexplored in more ways than one. As long as the search for truth continues, so too will the fascination with the unexplained. The unknown has always captivated human imagination, and stories like Leonard Lane's serve as haunting reminders that some mysteries still defy explanation. Whether through continued investigation or chance discovery, perhaps one day these lingering questions will find answers. Until then, the journey of searching, questioning, and hoping continues, echoing in the cold winds and endless wilderness of Alaska's most mysterious triangle. The Patterson River and its chilling legends. The Patterson River area of Alaska has long been surrounded by an eerie aura of mystery and fear. Tucked within the treacherous and frigid terrain of the Alaskan wilderness, the region is not only known for its natural beauty, but for its dark legends, particularly those tied to an entity feared by the indigenous Tlingit people, the Kushtaka. According to tribal folklore, the area was once referred to as the Bay of Death, and the events that earned it that name remain one of the oldest and most chilling tales from Alaska's shadowed past. The story dates back to the mid-1700s, when a thriving Tlingit settlement existed along the shores of the Patterson River. With more than 500 inhabitants, it was a substantial and well-established community. However, according to legend, a mysterious and devastating event erased the settlement from existence. While later generations attributed the disaster to a sudden and violent mountainslide that buried the village under tons of debris, many within the Tlingit tribe believed a darker force was responsible. They whispered that a group of Kushtaka, shape-shifting creatures from their mythology, had orchestrated the disaster, leading to the complete loss of their people. Fearing further attacks, the Tlingit abandoned the region entirely and resettled elsewhere, carrying with them stories of the land they had lost and the terrifying creatures they believed haunted it. The Kushtaka, described in tribal tradition as trickster entities, are some of the most feared figures in Tlingit folklore. These beings are said to shift between human-like forms and that of an otter, and sometimes assume unrecognizable animal-like shapes that defy logical description. In their most feared roles, the Kushtaka are cruel and deceptive. They are said to lure sailors and travelers to icy waters by imitating the cries of a baby or the desperate scream of a woman. Once their victim draws near, confused and off guard, the Kushtaka either transform the person into one of their own or cause them to vanish without a trace. In some stories, they trap the unsuspecting by creating illusions, either visual or auditory, that disorient and distract. When their target is sufficiently confused or isolated, they act. Other versions claim that victims are never seen again, taken into the wilderness to live in a transformed state, cut off forever from friends and family. Many elders within the tribe warn that the Kushtaka are especially drawn to young adults, and over generations, the creatures have become a cautionary figure, much like the boogeyman in Western tales. Anthropologists believe that such legends may have served as a protective cultural narrative, meant to keep young people from wandering near dangerous riverbanks or into snow-covered wilderness areas alone. But the lore didn't stay buried in the past. By the early 1900s, legends of the Kushtaka and the so-called Bay of Death had reached the ears of American prospectors, many of whom were drawn by rumors of rich gold deposits hidden in the freshly exposed mountainside. With dreams of sudden wealth, dozens of expeditions set out into the wilderness surrounding the Patterson River. Most of them would never return. The reasons for the high failure rate among these expeditions were often attributed to natural causes: harsh winters, insufficient supplies, and the challenges of surviving in such an unforgiving environment, but those few who did survive had stories that stretched the limits of belief. They spoke of strange experiences, of being stalked by strange, foul-smelling creatures in the woods, of attacks that seemed strategically coordinated, and of a silence in the forest that was too complete, too unnatural. According to their accounts, many of these encounters took place near two distinct lakes, one of them later identified as S Lake, and the other described as crescent-shaped. It was while moving through this area that the survivors claimed they were confronted by strange beings, creatures unlike anything they had encountered before. These figures were small, standing roughly 4 feet tall, covered in matted hair, with clawed limbs and distorted features that seemed to blur the line between man, monkey, and beast. Their tracks were unsettling, neither fully human nor animal, and the stench they carried was nauseating, compared by some to a mixture of decay and skunk spray, which many thought came from open sores on their bodies. These creatures, said to emerge from the shadows with silent coordination, would isolate members of the group, attacking from multiple directions. Some of the expeditionists described the attacks as almost tactical, with the creatures seemingly understanding how to split up groups and drive them into more vulnerable positions. While some managed to escape the assaults, their ordeal was far from over. Food became scarce, and survivors reported an eerie absence of wildlife in the area. No birds, no small mammals, just a haunting silence and the looming memory of what they had seen. Those who survived often did so only through sheer determination, making it out after weeks of wandering, frostbitten and half-starved, with disturbing tales to tell. Their stories mirrored the older legends passed down by the Tlingit, strengthening the belief that the Kushtaka were not merely a tale, but a reality lurking in the hidden corners of Alaska's vast wilderness. To this day, the Patterson River region is rarely visited, even by experienced outdoorsmen. The local legends, combined with the historical accounts of both native tribes and early explorers, have created a lasting aura of dread around the area. Whether one chooses to view the Kushtaka as mythological creatures, misunderstood natural phenomena, or unexplained beings yet to be classified, the stories endure. They speak to a fear older than history itself, the fear of vanishing into the unknown, of forces that cannot be reasoned with, and of places where the natural and the supernatural may intertwine. The Patterson River and its chilling legends remain a symbol of that mysterious edge where fact and folklore collide, and where the truth, if it exists, lies buried beneath snow, silence, and shadow.